Thank you for having me. My name is Fatima Abdirahman Gelle. I'm a poet and the author of my most recently published poetry book, Soulful. In Soulful, I tackle a lot of themes. My main themes being about life, love, family, social issues, self-discovery, mortality, and afterlife. I discuss, mostly it's about the human experiences. In mortality, I tackle the issues of loss of beloved ones and how we deal with it. And in the hope of there's an afterlife at the end, like after death, obviously there's going to be another life. In family, in that theme, I talk about the bonds of family, how they endure through challenges, how they overcome. I don't know, distance, and just different emotions they bring about, like different sides to you. So how family will be with you no matter what, and how they are going to love you unconditionally, no matter what kind of a person you become. So in my poems, I talk about that. Okay, in social issues, the main issues that I focus on are about women issues, particularly to do with periods and FGM. And the other social issue that I discuss in my book is war, about how it impacts us, obviously negatively. Yeah. I talk about how in our society the female anatomy is shamed rather than embraced, and I've seen, like, from my personal observations, I've seen several girls being shamed for being a girl, and I hear stories of even, just not even from another person, but with my own ears, of girls saying that I wish I was a boy instead of being a girl. And I wish if I get married one day, I would rather have boys instead of a girl. So I don't know, because there's a lot of shame that comes with being a woman. Periods, now FGM, and I think girls, they get trauma from undergoing FGM, especially at a young age, and mostly in our communities, which is so unfortunate. It leads to, health issues, and obviously sometimes it can lead to loss of lives. Sometimes, since they undergo surgery by people who are not even health practitioners, just a random old woman does it, and without, sanitation and all of that. But the girls who surround me, I've heard stories, I've witnessed it with my own eyes. Stories from my grandmother. The war in early 1990s, was it 1991? Yeah, that one, that war affected my grandmother really deeply. So till this day, I hear of it and how she wishes to go back home to her homeland, because it has been almost more than 30 years now that she hasn't seen home. So I see, like, how war affected her and our family, how it led to loss of beloved ones, destruction of, property, displacement of people, losing connection and, your cultural heritage. My grandmother particularly, because I even honor her in my book. I dedicated most of my book to her. There's a lot of people that I dedicated my book to, but my grandmother, I've dedicated a lot to her. Even in my poem, Ayeyo and Remembering Roots, I mentioned few things like how war affected her. And she lost her mother, her family members mostly. And they got displaced, some went to abroad, some came here to Kenya. My family, I'm just lucky enough to be in a family that I'll say developed, who have a developed mentality, a mindset. But in relatives, I've seen that. Even recently, when I mentioned to people that I have published a book and I was, like, inviting people to my event, a relative of mine asked me, like, what's your book about? She was a lady. And what's so unfortunate is she asked me, okay, what's your book about? And I just give her like a brief overview of what my book is about. I told her, like, my book is about these issues and social issues. She asked me, like, particularly what about social issues. I told her, like, about war and FGM. She's like, war, it's okay, but why are you talking about FGM? That's so shameful. So it was so disheartening, like, to be in the 21st century and to have that kind of mentality. I discussed in several of my poems in social issues. I discussed several poems whereby girls, it leads to their loss of life, and sometimes they can even struggle with childbirth and conceiving and all of that. I dedicated to the Almighty Lord first because He's the one who made it all work from the start. And I dedicated to my family members because they were the most supportive people in my system. Just lucky enough, alhamdulillah. I dedicated to my mother, my father, my grandma, my aunt, my maternal aunt, my siblings, and I wish I could have dedicated to my younger self, but I forgot. But I mostly dedicate to her because it was because of her that now I am going with this journey, through this journey. My goal was to express my emotions and, to convey a message through my observation of people, to relate their stories, to convey their stories, and so that people can be inspired to do the same. My book, no, I think it's for everyone. But maybe the girls will most likely relate with it because of some themes like love or the FGM and all of that. This book, I've started to write it in 2019, June 2019, till now, 2023, till 2024 actually. My biggest challenge is my own self, my mind, my criticism of my own self. And I didn't used to share with people that I write. Some people even got to know about it recently, about when they saw there's going to be an event happening. And my biggest challenge actually was myself, because I always had at the back of my mind, one day I would like to be an author. Even at a young age, I knew that one day I want to be an author. But there was always this fear that held me back of what if it's not going to be good enough? What if it's going to be perceived that way? So that was my biggest challenge, not every day. Only when I felt creative, and when I wanted to be relieved of, such a strong emotion. I feel grateful, alhamdulillah. I feel like a dream come true now. I feel like even after my purpose, obviously, since I'm a Muslim, my purpose here, my Lord created me for worship. But I always knew that I was meant to write. So I feel like now I fulfilled my purpose now. This is my first book. I would like to tell them to be their biggest hype girl, to listen to their heart and soul, what they desire the most, and to not hold themselves back. Because no one is going to help you if you're not going to help yourself. And even in our Quran, it said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that nothing can change until you change from within. So I want to tell them that whatever is your dream, it could be writing, it could be anything else, it could be a business, anything. I want them to go for it, to believe in themselves, and to have faith in the Lord. I actually don't have just one favorite poet, but Maya Angelou. Do you know her? That lady, and Warsan Shere. She's a Somali lady who is also a poet. I like their work. I think I've always been, ever since I was young, I'm very much vocal about certain things that people are shy of. So, of course, I want this issue to be eliminated totally from the face of earth. I don't want any girl. I'm really sorry to all the girls who have gone through that, but I don't want any other girl from now on to ever go through such a traumatic experience. Not just from a religious perspective, because I don't want to make mistakes since I'm not very much knowledgeable on everything. But from my own perspective, I'd like to say that how we can totally eradicate, the traumatic, the bad cultural practices is through giving women a platform so that they can voice their opinions, they can voice their concerns, and just encourage them to be women, to love their womanhood. From my religion, I would like to say, obviously, men and women, we are totally different. And obviously, as an educated young girl who is, has a growth mentality, who has the mindset of someone who is in the 21st century, and I would like to advocate for women to go have education, work and career and all of that. and not to undergo through like experiences such as FGM or early marriages, forced marriages, and all of that. But there is that religious aspect to it, and you have to respect their religion. It's said that when you educate a woman, it's like you educated the whole population. So I think women should be like given more priority, and should be taken to school. The girl child should be taken to school.